At first, no one understood what the pilots were trying to report. Their voices came through air traffic channels, calm but strained, describing something they couldn't properly define. Objects that didn't move like aircraft. Shapes that distorted against the horizon. Instruments that briefly stopped making sense. Even the most experienced crews couldn't agree on what they had seen. And long before any explanation reached the public, the response had already begun. Flights bound for Anchorage were quietly rerouted mid-air with no justification given. Coast Guard vessels nearing the Bering Sea were ordered to reverse course without explanation. In small Alaskan towns, residents stepped outside to watch unfamiliar aircraft streak overhead in tight formations, heading inland toward the frozen interior. There were no announcements. No emergency broadcasts. Just a sudden, unmistakable directive transmitted across the region. All non-essential travel was suspended until further notice. Within hours, Alaska felt different. Roadblocks appeared along highways that had never known checkpoints. Personnel stood guard wearing uniforms stripped of insignia, faces impassive, questions unanswered. The vast wilderness that had always served as Alaska's natural shield had now become a sealed perimeter. Overnight, the state was effectively locked down. Before we go any further, make sure you like the video and subscribe for more stories like this. What unfolded next only deepened the mystery. Rumors ignited almost immediately. Some dismissed it as another large-scale military exercise. Alaska was no stranger to those. But even seasoned locals sensed something was off. The speed of the shutdown. The precision. The silence. This didn't feel rehearsed. It felt reactive, as though something unexpected had been uncovered and control was now the priority. That something had been found far beneath the ice. The discovery began quietly with a small team of researchers studying glacial movement. Their instruments recorded vibrations that didn't match any known seismic activity. The tremors were too regular, too deliberate. Almost mechanical. Curious, the team deployed deeper scanning equipment. When the radar data returned, it revealed shapes that shouldn't exist. Perfect angles buried more than a mile beneath solid ice. Massive symmetry where nature never carved straight lines. At first, they assumed an error. They recalibrated. They scanned again. The same structure appeared every time. Vast. Precise. Impossible. Once the data reached federal channels, everything changed. Civilian oversight vanished overnight. The site was classified and transferred to agencies that rarely appeared on the same organizational chart. Satellites were repositioned. Drones filled the skies. Specialized teams were flown in under cover of darkness. The goal was no longer understanding. It was containment. Excavation began cautiously. Ice that had formed over tens of thousands of years was removed layer by layer. And with every meter uncovered, one fact became increasingly disturbing. The ice surrounding the object was ancient, but the structure itself showed no wear. No erosion. No deformation. It had been there before the ice existed. Whatever it was, it predated human history. The exposed surface was unnaturally smooth. Instruments failed to penetrate it. Scanners couldn't measure its density. Drones that approached too closely lost signal and dropped from the air. Light, sound, and electromagnetic waves seemed to vanish on contact, as though absorbed. Then the pulses were detected. Subtle at first. Rhythmic. Perfectly timed. Not random. Not natural. They radiated outward from deep within the structure, rippling through the ice in patterns that felt almost musical. Too deliberate to ignore. Too weak to identify as communication. But undeniably intentional. When a team finally approached close enough to touch the surface, their instruments reacted violently. Readings spiked. Then something unexpected happened. The structure was warm. Not hot, but stable. Maintaining its own temperature despite being buried beneath frozen pressure for millennia. It wasn't dormant. That realization changed everything. The shutdown expanded. Restricted zones widened. Official explanations spoke vaguely of environmental instability. Military engineers erected research facilities that weren't really research facilities. Communities were quietly relocated. Supply routes shifted. Alaska became a place people couldn't enter and didn't fully understand why. As excavation continued, the pulses began to change. Their rhythm shifted whenever machinery approached. Accelerating. Slowing. Reacting. The correlation was undeniable. The structure was responding to disturbance. Heavy equipment was pulled back. Manual teams took over. Every movement became cautious, deliberate. Whatever lay beneath the ice was no longer treated as an artifact. It was active. And then something else emerged. What had been assumed to be a single object revealed itself as part of something much larger. As teams focused on mapping the expanding network beneath the ice, new anomalies surfaced. Scanning equipment failed unpredictably. Some areas appeared solid and impenetrable, while others revealed voids arranged in patterns too deliberate to be natural. Whenever instruments pushed closer to these spaces, circuits fried. Signals scrambled. It was as if the structure resisted being observed internally. Then the dreams began. Personnel stationed near the excavation reported strange sensations. Distorted sleep cycles. Vivid impressions they couldn't describe. Shapes. Sounds. A sense of awareness that lingered even after leaving the site. These accounts were classified, dismissed publicly, but quietly logged. Too many matched to ignore. Environmental sensors recorded temperature fluctuations that defied explanation. Ice shifted subtly, not violently, but purposefully. The frozen ground seemed to respond to the same rhythm as the pulses. The region itself felt alive. As excavation progressed toward what appeared to be an access point, a distinct surface emerged. Unlike the smooth exterior, this section bore faint markings. Not writing. Not symbols from any known system. Patterns arranged with intention, worn just enough to suggest unimaginable age. The pulses intensified. Vibrations became detectable by touch. The air grew warmer near the panel. Fine mist rose where ice fractured gently, as though responding to something beneath. The structure wasn't merely reacting anymore. It felt as though it was preparing. When the final layer of ice was removed, the panel revealed itself fully. It was flawless. Iridescent. Its appearance shifted depending on where one stood. It didn't feel like a door, but it didn't feel like a wall either. It felt deliberate. Designed. A robotic arm was extended toward the surface. As it approached, systems began to fail. Servos stuttered. Sensors overloaded. When contact was finally made, the arm shut down instantly. But the structure responded. Lines across the panel illuminated. Pulses realigned into complex sequences. For the first time, the structure wasn't just responding to proximity. It was engaging. Analysts scrambled to interpret the patterns. The pulses didn't behave like any known signal. They overlapped frequencies. Slipped beyond measurable ranges. operated across spectrums that defied physics. The structure wasn't emitting energy as humans understood it. It was using something else entirely. A second probe was prepared, shielded and reinforced. This time, when it touched the panel, there was no resistance. The surface yielded slightly, guiding the probe rather than opposing it. Certain areas softened. Others stiffened. The structure was directing the interaction. It was teaching. Behind the panel, shapes appeared. Spiraling geometries that folded and unfolded like moving blueprints. Not structural designs but conceptual ones. Processes rendered in motion. A map, perhaps. Or an explanation. Then the panel changed again. It didn't open. It transformed. The surface rippled like liquid metal. Light converged inward. When it settled, the panel became semi-transparent. Something lay beyond it, but not something that could be easily seen. Shapes shifted too quickly to define. Not reflections. Not projections. A tone filled the chamber. Perfectly steady. Not loud, but precise. It resonated through bone rather than air. It felt intentional. Like an acknowledgement. A drone was sent through the opening. Inside, there were no walls. No measurable space. Just shifting planes of light and motion. Geometry that rearranged itself in response to movement. The drone encountered no resistance. No atmosphere. No temperature. Only patterns. One formation stabilized. A circular vortex pulsing in sync with the external rhythm. Within it, particles aligned into shapes eerily similar to the markings on the panel. Then they formed something unmistakable. Not an eye in form, but in meaning. A symbol of observation. The structure responded instantly. The opening widened. The tone deepened. The system adjusted as though recognizing that it was being seen. The drone crossed into the vortex. What lay beyond wasn't a chamber. It wasn't a machine. It wasn't even a space that obeyed familiar dimensions. It was something constructed from principles humanity hadn't yet named. A controlled reality. A system operating on rules older than civilization itself. And that was only the beginning. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. What do you think really caused Alaska's shutdown? Was this a discovery, a warning, or something else entirely? Thank you for watching. We'll see you in the next one.